Topaz is a fire hunt character and she can deal a respectable amount of single target damage and as well as increase her allies' follow-up attack damage whether you're here for the follow-up attack combo meta or for other reasons. This video will talk about Topaz's best light cones, relics, team building, and eidolons from an F2P perspective. I've laid out the chapters so you can skip ahead to the part that you need to hear most. Kit breakdown. First off, Topaz's skill and basic both count as follow-up attacks, so they both benefit from the damage percent increase that she gives. Her skill, difficulty paying, deals single target fire damage and marks enemies with proof of death, which increases the damage they take from follow-up attacks. If an ally takes action and no enemies are marked with proof of death, Topaz marks a random one automatically, which allows for a basic spam sub-DPS playstyle. Topaz's main shtick is with her talent, Trotter Market. It's similar to Jing Yuan's Lightning Lord, but this time it's Numbi. Numbi has her own turn and she has a flat 80 speed. But when an enemy marked by Topaz's skill is hit with a follow-up attack, then Numbi's action is advanced by 50%. Since Topaz's basic and skill are counted as a follow-up attack, Numbi can easily start ramping up turns when paired with other follow-up spammers. And finally, Topaz's ultimate is Turn a Profit. When Topaz uses it, Numbi enters the Windfall Bonanza state for 2 attacks. While in this state, Numbi's damage multipliers and crit damage are increased, and when an enemy marked by Topaz's skill is hit with a basic, skill, or ultimate, Numbi's action is advanced forward by 50%. This stacks with a 50% from her talent. This means that if Topaz uses her skill, Numbi is shot up the turn order, which can lead to a bunch of extra turns. Rotation. Topaz generates 30 energy with her skill, and her maximum energy is 130. Using her skill every turn results in a 4-turn ultimate rotation, which can be reduced to 3 turns if you have Jing Yuan. With Jing Yuan's E6, you may even achieve a 2-turn ultimate rotation. Numbi's attacks sadly do not generate energy unless he's in the Windfall Bonanza state, which will only generate 20 energy total. If you're doing purely skills, this won't make a difference. And you can also take a 5-turn ult rotation by weaving 2 or 3 basics, if you're playing her as a sub-DPS. Topaz only loses out on energy and around a 50% damage MV while using her basic attack, which is a pretty small gap when compared to the other DPS units. So, there might be a composition in the future that might warrant her using her basics, but currently, skill spam is just the way to go. Light cones. Her signature light cone is Worrisome Blissful. It increases the wearer's crit damage percent and follow-up damage percent. What's nice about this light cone is its supportive capabilities. It increases her crit damage against the enemies that the wearer attacks. It's tailored for Topaz and it's perfect if you want her to act as a support. As usual, the F2P option is Cruising in the Stellar Sea, which you can get for free in the Herta shop. Worrisome is around 19% better than Cruising in the Stellar Sea at baseline. Swordplay and Only Silence Remains S5 are great for SOAR light cones, and they can even outperform Cruising in the Stellar Sea in some scenarios. It's important to note though that you should keep focus firing when you're using Swordplay to get maximum value, and Only Silence Remains loses its value when you're up against AoE content. Relics. Once again, the 4-piece Quantum set reigns supreme for DPS units, offering a valuable 10% def shred. The main reason Quantum set is the best, even without Pela, is because Topaz can't consistently trigger the 4-piece Fire set. If you're not going for the 4-piece Quantum set, consider a 2-piece Fire and the 2-piece Musk for raw stats. But what you should do is wait for 1.5. There's something big coming soon for Topaz. Just trust me on this one. For her planar sets, Inert Cell Soto is the best since it increases follow-up and ult damage percent. SSS is decent as usual, and Rutilant Arena won't see too much use, because most of Topaz's damage is in Numbi, not from her basics and skills. Topaz has a standard attack and crit loadout, so you'd have crit percent on her chest, attack or speed on her boots, damage percent on sphere, and attack percent on her rope. Only build up speed on Topaz if you're planning to make her your main carry. This front loads her damage quite a bit, and you honestly shouldn't be worrying too much about breakpoints with Topaz. This is because most of Topaz's damage comes from Numbi. Numbi isn't affected too much about how fast Topaz goes, since she advances her own turn when follow-ups happen. For sub-DPS Topaz, you can genuinely just leave her at 110 speed, so she doesn't eat too much SP compared to the rest of your team. Just level the relics and roll with what you rolled with. So you should maximize crit percent and attack percent substats so that Numbi deals as much damage as possible. Break effect isn't that good, because it's a nightmare to secure breaks with Topaz and Numbi's 60 toughness damage. But since she is fire element, you'll find that she deals decent enough break damage without it anyway. Team building. Currently, her best team is as a supportive sub DPS for Jing Yuan plus a harmony of your choice. What's strong about this comp is that Jing Yuan brings great AoE damage and Topaz can snipe off stragglers that remain. I know that there will be Jing Yuan doubters out there, but I'm telling you that next patch could very well be Erudition season due to Argenti's release being on the horizon. For those seeking a hyper carry approach, consider a team with Jing Yuan and Bronya. It's recommended that you have 160 plus speed on Bronya so that she can be SP neutral. But if you don't have those kinds of relics just yet, then you can make Bronya slower than Topaz by 1 speed. While playing this comp, it's important to time Bronya's skill right when Topaz uses her skill, while Numbi is in the Windfall Bonanza state, and Numbi's enhanced state will benefit from the damage percent that Bronya gives for 1 turn. One thing to keep in mind though is that Jing Yuan's buffs might burn out faster since Topaz is taking so many turns with Bronya's skill spam. But to be real with you, you can just slap 2 harmonies on her that aren't Yukong, and you're good. Yukong's mid with Topaz because most of Topaz's damage don't happen on her turn, and Numbi can rarely use the bowstrings that Yukong gives. Topaz can be used with Clara, as Clara's counters are counted as follow-up attacks. You can run a harmony to buff Topaz in this comp since most of the damage will be coming from her. It's also important that you have links as a sustainer so that Clara's aggro can be boosted, which will lead to more counters. Eidolons. When talking about E1 versus S1, S1 is better. If you're an F2P player, you can just get Topaz E0 S1 and then go on your merry way. But her E1 is worth considering if you're a follow-up fan. This is because her E1 improves upon her proof of death and gives it a stacking 25% crit damage increase for follow-up attacks, up to 2 stacks. Other than that though, her other eidolons don't seem to be particularly game-breaking. Her E2 makes her rotations a little smoother, E4 advances Topaz's action when Numbi attacks, and E6 increases the Windfall Bonanza use by 1 and have 10% fire rest pen on top of it. You're not missing out on much, so if I were you, I'd just save those jades for future follow-up spammers. Conclusion. Right now, Topaz is sitting in a decent spot in the meta, being a decent hyper carry and having some combo pieces to work with. In the future though, I predict Topaz to be a coveted unit in specific follow-up teams, and that she will be nigh irreplaceable in some of them. If you're pulling for Topaz, watch out for more combo pieces so that you can use her to her maximum potential. Though, you might not like the characters she synergizes well with in the future, but it's a risk you've gotta take if you want her. I also suspect that all the other combo pieces that she wants are going to be 5-star limited characters. Much like in-game, Topaz will drain you of all your jades for the glory of the IPC. As of now, I'd give her around a B tier, but she will indubitably spike up. I'm not pulling for Topaz, and I don't think any of my friends are. I'm looking forward to Huohuo's release, since I really want to lock in 2 limited 5-star sustainers. Then I'll pull for mostly support 5-star characters, so that my 4-star carries can be buffed enough to match the limited 5-stars. I unironically think that my hook E6 is stronger than Topaz as of now. If you've got any suggestions or questions for this video or about things in the future, leave it down in the comments. That's it for me, my name is Kyte, and thanks for watching. See ya!